Okay, so welcome back. Where we left off, we just made these four pillars. You can't see them right now, but if we go in here, you'll be able to see them a lot easier. What I actually want to do is I want to move these back. And this one, obviously, I want to move it up. Now, when I move this up, I actually want to move this where the first step is right about here. So it's going a little bit below the ground plane, but that's fine. We'll select these four pillars that we created in the last video, and we'll move these up to, let's say right about here. Nothing's perfect. I'm just going to move them back here. So for the steps, all I'm going to do is create a simple poly cube. I'm going to scale it down. Now this warning error that I'm sure you keep seeing, you're wondering, what the hell is that? Well, what that is, if you look at let me undo the scale. If you look at my scale XYZ, whenever I scale, these values don't change. Simply come up to axis orientation and change this back to object. As you can see now, they actually change with the object. That's all that is. I'm actually going to move this one down just a little bit. I'm going to scale it out like so. Move it to the center. There we go. I'm going to scale it out like so. Yeah, I'm thinking right there should be fine. Why not? I'm going to come in here. I'm going to make this first step right about here, I think. And so from there, all I'm doing, wrong view, all I'm doing from there is I'm just going to not move it. I want to duplicate it, and then I'll move it up. After I've done that, I'll just simply scoot it back. So that's all I'm doing for this section. I think right about there should be fine. So I'm going to start doing that. So I'm going to create that one right about there, and that one right about there. Now I know I'm going to have a gap. I'm not too concerned about gaps right now, and I'll explain why a little bit later on after I finish creating the stairs. Why do I keep doing that? There we go. So I'm going to line this one up right here. This one actually needs to be lined up right here. This one right about here. Looks like I need 4 more steps. Oops, wrong button. Alright, so that looks actually not half bad. Let me go ahead and create those last 4 steps. Create those right there. I'm going to move these back right there. So for these steps, what I'm going to do is just simply move them down, and I'll start selecting each and every one of these. Whenever I see that there's a gap, I'm just going to move it down. Looks like my last gap is right here, so I'll just move that down. Nope, got one more. And I'll move that down there. There we go. So let me go in my side view real quick and make sure. Yeah, those look good. Alright, there we go. Now this image actually looks like this, these actually kind of like come out. I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to create a cube. I'm going to scale down, say right about here. I'm going to click on face. And I don't want to click on face yet. I actually want to move this back where it's right about here. I want it actually kind of overlapping that step just a little bit. So I'm going to go to face, and I'm actually just going to drag this up like so. If you're wondering, this right here drags in both Z and Y. If your red handle is where my blue handle is, then you'd actually be dragging in X and Y. The other option is just come to the side view and do the same thing. So it's completely up to you. Let's see. That doesn't look too bad. I think I'm going to bring this up just a little bit more. No, wait, that's actually pretty close to the step, so actually I want to bring this down to about here. Maybe up just a little bit. There we go. Okay, I think I can live with that. So this actually, let me go back to this face right here. This actually looks like it curves like this, which is no big deal at all. All I'm going to do is come up here to vertex. I'm going to select all of these and move them in. I'll do the same with this one. And I'm just going to work my way down. The other option you have is you can select all these right here. We'll just combine those real quick. Go to mesh. We'll move right there. We're going to want to go into X-ray for this because I don't need these selected anymore. And all I'm doing is just trying to keep these. They don't have to be like perfectly in the middle. I'm just keeping them kind of close. So that's how I would do that. If you don't want to go through the same trouble that you did, you could always move all these in, then duplicate them, but that's actually going to be more steps than what I'm about to show you. Because what I'm about to show you, we'll hit Control D. We'll move it over. We are scaling in the X, and the reason why I know we're scaling in the X because the X handle is right here. I actually want to scale it like this. So all I'm going to do is just come up here to scale X. I'm going to add a negative in front of that and press enter. And then I'm going to middle mouse click in the scene. I'm going to move this right about here. So because we already combined those, I'm going to do the same thing right here. I'm just going to go into vertex. If you want, you can go into your top window and do it like so. That's completely optional. And all I'm doing is just trying to keep these close to the center. So let me move these to the center real quick and we'll continue on with this lovely tutorial. I actually had to look at my OBS software right now and make sure I was still recording. Like, wait, am I just talking to myself or am I actually recording? Okay, so now that we have done that, what we want to do now is this actually has one more step that is level with this. So I need to actually separate these pieces, and I'm just going to click on this icon. If you don't have this icon, it's mesh. You go down to separate. It's the third one. So I can either do it by creating another step, which I really don't feel like doing, or I could simply go to Edge, Edge. Why did I click on Edge? I want to go to Face, Face. Because what I want to do is I actually want to bring these forward right about here and bring them down right about there. If you notice your steps are protruding through, I thought I saw mine, yeah, see it looks like mine are starting to protrude through. All you have to do is just click on Edge and bring it down just a little bit. I wouldn't recommend bringing it down too much because that will actually take away from the scene. But as you can see by me doing that, you can't even tell that I did anything. For this one, we'll leave that alone, except for one little detail. We actually want to move this out right about here, and we'll do the same on this one. So we're just trying to line those up. So after that, we're just going to click on this, and we're just going to drag it out. So there's the first part of our, I guess you'd say wall? I don't know. After that, I'm just going to select the bottom. I'm going to pull this just a little past the ground surface here. And then finally, I'm going to do the same thing with these. So if you remember, I told you to rotate these. Oh no, I guess we just moved them by the face. Okay, that works. If your y-axis handle, the green handle, was facing off like this direction, all you'd have to do is just set this to world, and then it will go up and down. I'm going to make sure mine's set to world, but because I don't know if this is actually off a little bit or anything like that, but I'm just going to scale this all the way flat. And I'm going to press W on the keyboard. I'm going to move it down where it's below the ground plane. What just happened? Okay, I know what's going on. What's going on is I actually have another face selected. So now when I do this, let me get out of X-ray mode. I'll come down here, and you'll see now that it works. There we go. That is exactly what I was wanting. So now you see that this has a wall that comes out like, it just kind of like goes along this. To do that, we'll click on this tool right here. This is your Insert Edge Loop tool, or also known as Split Selected Edge Ring. This is going to be under Mesh Tools. I mean, not Mesh Tools, but, well, yeah, it is Mesh Tools. It's going to be called the Insert Edge Loop. If you want this on your shelf, just remember to hold down Control-Shift. We'll go to Mesh Tools, and then we'll select that, and it'll pop up here. So I'm going to select this once. All I'm going to do is just click once on this. And I'm going to add an edge right about here. You can have it a little bit closer, a little bit further. It doesn't really matter. Just right about here. If you try to click multiple times and you see that happens, I'm going to show you another tool. Make sure you select the arrow after you place the first one, though, because if not, you're going to keep running into that problem. So this weird icon right here is delete edges or vertices. Edges and vertices. Once again, that's going to be under Mesh Tools. And this one is under Edit Mesh. It's going to be right down here below Edge, and it's called Delete Edge Vertex. So hold down Control-Shift, and you're going to want this icon up here too. Once again, I already have this up here, so I don't really need it. So right now you're probably wondering, but Jimmy, what is the difference between using that and just pressing Delete on the keyboard? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let me show you. So this one, I'm just going to press Delete on the keyboard. And if you're wondering how I'm selecting the whole edge loop, I'm actually just double clicking. Otherwise, you'll have to do this. And if you're working with a larger scene, like more complex objects, it can be a major pain. So the first one, I just pressed Delete on the keyboard. And you can already see something funny is happening here. But if you select this, we go into Vertex, you'll see that the vertices where that edge loop was that I deleted are still there. So that's why it's important to make sure that is selected. Now, as you can see, if you try to use it now, it totally messes up your mesh. So I just wanted to show you guys that real quick. I'm going to go ahead and delete these now. Edge. There we go. So now that we have this, let's go ahead and go into face, and we're going to select just this face and this face. You can make sure no other faces are selected. That's up to you. It's totally fine. Then we'll select the extrude face tool. I'm just going to bring this out. So now, as you can see, we have a pretty wall. Now you might be wondering why I'm not doing anything over here. And that is simply because I'm going to add an edge loop here, an edge loop here. If you want to make this a wall, oh, come on. If you want to make this a wall, you can do it like so. Your other option is if you want to make this a walkable path. Let me go into face. Or actually, I'm just going to select this face. I'm going to extrude this out. I'm going to move this about here. Let me go into Vertex real quick. If you're wanting to make this a walkable path, I recommend you continue following me on this. So I'm going to select all of these vertices right here. I'm going to press R on the keyboard. I'm going to make sure that it's scaled where it's flat. Now this is where things get really weird. So you would think this is fine. But if you select your object and press 3 on the keyboard, you're like, what is this? Press 1 to go back, and I'll show you what's going on. Because what's going on is because you created 2 separate extrusions, it kept the faces separate. So to fix that, we'd select this face and this face. We'd press delete. Let's go ahead and click on this face, and we'll move it back here. There we go. And we'll go to vertex. We'll click and drag right here. Make sure it's only this quote-unquote one vertex. There's actually two of them there that is selected. And from there, we'll click on this merge vertices right here. So if we click and drag, let me get this over here. Let me just move this up. Right here, verts, this is vertices. Each one of these little purple squares is a vertice. So if I click and drag, you'll see I only have one vertice selected. If I click and drag here, you see I have two vertices selected. And those are literally the only two vertices I have selected. So by clicking on this icon, now you see those two vertices have gone to one, because I actually merged the two vertices there. And when we press 3 on the keyboard, you'll see it actually smooths out more properly. So that's how you would create a wall with a flat cube surface that you just made, and that's also how you create a path with a flat cube surface that you made as well. So for this one has stairs. A real easy thing to do if you want to add stairs on all four corners, just come into your top view, drag and select. We will combine this object, and then we'll press Control D, and we will go to center pivot. We'll just move this over here for now. Let's go ahead and rotate it. This looks like it's going to be -90. This time the negative and positive values do matter. Before they didn't really matter too much because, you know, it's whatever. Alright, so we're just going to bump this up to here. Now obviously this is too wide, because if you look at this image right here, the front is super wide, but the side is real narrow. This is where you go into vertex, select the vertices on just this side, and just move them in like so. If you wanted to straighten this out, you could. It'd be a little difficult, because as you can see, me just moving that, let me move it right here. Just moving this, no, actually that doesn't look too terribly bad. It's a little wanky because you can see that these vertices right here kind of go offset, but overall it doesn't look too bad. You could definitely move this if you wanted to. The way I would do it would just be to move this where it kind of lines up and looks flat, and then I'd select this vertex and move it back like so. Then I'd select just this one, or actually I'm selecting two vertices. I'd move this one up. So you could keep it where it either comes out at an angle, or you could make it where it goes straight up and down. That's going to be completely up to you. Let me go ahead and save it real quick. Let's see, 18 minutes. Yeah, we'll go for just a little bit longer, and then I'll go ahead and stop the recording. Let's see. For video games, it's all about saving the frames, obviously. So one thing I want to do is I want to select all these pillars. And I'm going to go ahead and combine them. I'm going to go to Face. I'm going to select everything. So now you can see that all the faces on these pillars are selected. I'll go to Front View. I'll hold down Control, drag and select all the way across. This way only the top and bottom faces are selected. I'm going to press Delete on my keyboard. That may not seem like a whole lot because it's only 160 faces I have selected. I can't tell if that's 160 or 180. It's one of the two. But by hitting delete, you know, you're like, oh wow, you saved 160 faces. Whoop-de-doo. Well, the thing is, over time, these faces start adding up very, very fast. So the more faces you can delete that are not hidden, the better times you'll have. So just something to kind of be mindful of. So I'm going to continue on with this. I'm going to go ahead and make this deck up here. And you can simply separate this object right here and just grab one of these steps and just Control D. You can do it that way, or you can actually create a new polycube. That's going to be completely up to you. I'm feeling kind of lazy right now, so I'm just going to, Control D. Yeah, Diet Cola. Alright, so from there I'm just going to move this here, and I actually need to move this back some more. So I'm going to move this here. I want that right about there. I'm going to go to Face. And one thing to keep in mind, because we did manipulate this, we'll need to click on these ends right here and move the X inwards like that. So that side was good. Alright, so I'm going to grab this face, and I'm just going to pull it back, like so. I'm going to say right about there. Doesn't have to be perfect. It can be whatever. It's completely up to you. But I am going to take these, I'm going to make this a little shorter, right about there. I know that these are sticking out. The reason why I want those sticking out is I'm actually going to click on this and pull this out, probably right about there. Right about there looks good. I'm going to select these back faces. I'm going to do the same thing. Just going to pull these out and drag them back. Now you'll notice that we have this red fence up here. We have this red fence down here. Do you see where I'm going with this? So I'm going to select all of these. Well, not that one. That one looks like crap because it has to go in a little bit for that. But I'm definitely going to select these. I'm going to press Control D and go to my front view. I'm going to press W on the keyboard. I'm going to move them up here. Now, if you try to scale them, you're going to run into this issue. So before you do that, hold down Control, press G, and center pivot, and then just scale down. I'm thinking right about there looks good. Move these up. I'm actually going to move them up right about here. Move them up right about there. I'm going to set them down. I don't want them all the way over the edge. I just want them close. So now I'm going to go into Vertex. And this will actually take away what we just did, the Control G. However, the group will still be in the outliner. So if you go to Windows, scroll down to Outliner. You can't see it. Hold on. Okay, there we go. The last group that we created, which looks like it was Group 2, if you click on that, it'll reselect everything. So for now, I'm going to press Control D. I'm actually going to move this one right here, I think. Yeah, that looks good. If we scroll down, we have this selected, but you can't see it. Well, it's actually under the group that we just created. So now if we click on this, you'll see that now it actually selects. And the reason why I moved that one over, because when we hit Control D on this group, we're actually creating a new group. But you can overlap this a little bit, or you can put a little gap. That's going to be up to you. And you can actually just keep repeating this. So that's completely up to you. If you're creating the gaps like I am, easiest way to do this is to click on all of these, go ahead and combine. We'll go to Face. We're going to shift select all of these, hold down Control. We'll deselect all those faces, move your mouse way over here, deselect all those faces, and now we just have these. If you're running into rotation errors like this, press F on your keyboard and it'll frame in on what you're looking at. So from there we can press Delete. We'll go up to Edge. We'll double click and select these edges. We'll come up to this tool, which this is your bridge tool. Make sure your divisions are set to 0. And I'm going to show you what happens. If they're set to like 5 or something like that, it'll look like this. So just make sure they're down to 0. Once again, save the frames. We're going to press G on the keyboard. Once you've created your poly bridge, you can select all 6 of these edge loops and go and just delete them. We no longer need them. So that's how you go about doing that. Now, what I actually want to do is I actually want to select all of this. So I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to go ahead and combine this entire thing. Well, I'm not going to combine these over here. I don't want to combine those yet. I do want to combine all of this though. So let's just go to Mesh and Combine. Right here, it's the second one. Or you can just click on this tool with the circle and the two polyplanes. That will do it too. Next thing I want to do is I want to go up to Edit, Delete by Type, History. And the purpose of deleting history is it actually allows it to run a little bit smoother. So if I go into the attribute, you can see that I just have Lambert 1, initial shading group, group 3, blah, 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 blah. If you want to change the name of this, you just click on group 3 PQ47 or whatever that number is, and just change it to Gate Upper. So now you can see right there it's changed even in the outliner. When you're looking for it, and you're like, where the hell is it? Well, if you look right there, there it is, Gate Upper. And the nice thing about the outliner, I'm going to go ahead and combine all of these together real fast, just so I can show you this. If you combine this, see how this is the same thing? You can actually just literally create on this Gate Upper 2, and you'll see it automatically changes all this in here. If you just change the name right under the shape, it won't change everything else. So you have to do it on the actual name of it, or you can do it in the outliner right here. That's completely up to you. That's the nice thing about Maya is it gives you a lot of options. So next thing we want to do, let's see, yeah, I'm at about 30 minutes. I'm going to go and stop the video right here, and I'm going to continue on with the shrine in the next video, and the next video will be strictly about the shrine as far as the walls, the roof, things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and save it right here, and I'll see y'all in the next video.